A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch Up Entertainment Network. I am your humble host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me as always, the four-armed, unnamed gladiator to my terminally disabled Han Solo, it's John Campbell.
You know what? I think the wording and energy of that matched this issue of Star Wars perfectly.
I struggle sometimes to find those little opening bits because occasionally there's not a lot going on in these issues for me to pull from.
Well, luckily that's not the case oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait. Uh-oh. Yeah, no, this is this the lightest we've ever had this comic be? Just in terms of emptiness, not in terms of tone.
Yeah, because that's the thing. We've had issues that are sort of, broadly speaking, recap issues. I'm looking specifically at the issues directly following the translation of A New Hope when we start getting into the original story stuff, where
right.
A lot of that first issue was just oh yeah, and Han Solo thinking about A New Hope.
Right. Yeah, but this one really is we can't get through this arc too fast, so let's just kind of pause, reflect on what we've done, hint at where we're going. Man, and I want my 35 cents back.
Yeah, it does. There are a couple of interesting things in this issue that we'll talk about, but they are very light. They are the corn puff in between the crunch berries, if you will, of this Captain Crunch of an issue.
Oh, good Lord, are they ever? Yeah, this is it, folks. And by the way, it's issue 20. And when you reach issue 20, I am starting to go what have we done with our lives?
Well, I mean, by the time you get to a 20th issue, it feels like you've really made a commitment because you're farther along.
Especially now, if it's modern day and you make it 20 issues, you are one of the longest running books on shelves.
Right, 12 issues means you've made it a year, and at that point I'm okay, if we're gonna put our sword down and walk away from this fight, now's the time. We push anywhere past 12, and before you get to 24, you're committed.
Absolutely, but I'm saying that specifically like we were talking about, specifically now. I wish I could remember who said this, but where it's can Marvel just admit they don't make ongoing series anymore, and it's just miniseries after miniseries after miniseries?
And there are a couple of exceptions to that, but they're broadly speaking the rarity, they're the exception, not the rule.
Right, exactly. Most of the time, even, the biggest characters at Marvel will get 10, 12 issues, and then it goes back to number one.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Sometimes even with the same creative team, almost making the whole thing feel what was the point of any of this?
It makes collecting trades of certain series really difficult.
Impossible sometimes. I remember my sister used to work in a library, and she would call me sometimes going I have to categorize the graphic novels section. I don't understand any of this. And I'd be okay, here you go. Here's the thing. All right, the Kelly Sue DeConnick Captain Marvel run. It has 2 volume ones. This is nuts.
I have the complete run of G. Willow Wilson's Miss Marvel, right?
Right, yeah.
And the weird thing about that trade run specifically is they never break the volume order.
No.
In terms of the trade, but the comic does reset twice during it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's nuts.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of which, we are on issue number 20 of the Marvel Star Wars comic from 1977, though this particular issue was released February 20th, 1979. We are in issue number 20. We've got a lot of the same creative team as before. We're keeping some consistent creatives on this, which I do really appreciate.
Well, as we talk about, this is kind of the first time they're going for a longish arc in the book.
And one that's not a direct pastiche of Magnificent Seven or something.
or Pirate World.
Or, whatever that was. But yes, we've got Archie Goodwin on writing. We've got Carmine Infantino back on pencils. We've got Bob Wyacek on inks. We've got George Roussos on colors. And John Costanza on letters, with a certain shooter in the background on a grassy knoll waiting to take his shot.
Shooter. Shooter, 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 shooter. He's coming. Yeah, no, Shooter's ever going like, someday this will all be mine, baby.
One day there'll be a man with a jerry curl, and Spider-Man will teach him how to poop. For those who have not read Secret Wars 2, I know that sentence sounds insane, but that's what happens.
And folks who have not read it, that sentence is not even as insane as that book is. So.
Not even close, no.
No, that book is absolutely nuts.
But let's get into this nuts of a book, because, let's start with the cover here, where we've got Death Game, a title that is not at all earned by this issue.
Lord, no. And I love, of course, I mean, they are leading with the action that is a surprisingly small part of this, but I'm just glad that Goro from Mortal Kombat got some more work.
Don't slander Goro like that. This is a four-armed walrus man, because all aliens in this comic are walrus men.
Well, it does feel like that's what Infantino likes to draw or could draw, so he's just like, yeah, whatever. He's gonna be a walrus. It's gonna happen.
How many aliens have we seen so far with walrus tusks? It's a lot.
It's a lot. I think we talked about that last week on the show, that it's just like we just kept seeing, more tusks. Mm-hmm. And here we go again, Yeah, it's just like, he looks at every alien he finishes drawing and goes like, I don't know, it needs something. Tusks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Like, that's the go-to alien accoutrement.
Because you know what's pretty alien? Tusks. Humans don't have tusks.
I'm desperately looking online right now. I was like, how far in advance does this predate the character of Goro? And it's by a lot.
It's by a lot. Yeah, I definitely.
The first Mortal Kombat game is 92.
I don't mean to slag off Goro. I love me some Goro in Mortal Kombat, but when I was reading this last night, you see a four-armed fighter in like a tournament, and I'm going, oh my god.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously, like, there's no shortage of four-armed aliens going back to, like, Edgar Rice Burroughs. So,
it's classic,
is not... Yeah.
Well, because it's exactly what we're talking about, where it is just like, what seems alien? Well, more than two arms, that's for sure.
Speaking of aliens, can we talk about Dick Nose in the cover here?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. That is a very crude thing for me to say, but this guy's got a big, bad case of penis nose.
I mean, I can't blame you. I'm looking at it like it's one of those things where I don't know what else to call it.
I mean, obviously it tapers to a finer point that I think most genitalia would.
Most healthy penises, yes.
Yeah. But this is one of those aliens
where
it's
looks like this, talk to a doctor.
Yeah. There's something about like a prehensile nose that isn't quite a trunk that I always find so disturbing. It's just like, what evolutionary purpose does that serve? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, we're really dealing in some Flash Gordon-y stuff too here, where it's just like, just make them weird, alien, it's just that sort of thing. And it's these two weird aliens. We don't see the other one's face. I guess presumably he probably has a similar nose. 'Cause it seems like they're of the same race, except one is pink and one is green. But they have the same weird sort of pointed ears.
Yeah, that's true. But they're watching a TV screen on the cover here of Han Solo being attacked by Goro from Mortal Kombat, wielding 4 spikes in his 4 hands. Meanwhile, R2 and 3PO are also watching the same screen, though. Actually, R2 is facing away from it, presumably because it's too grim to watch.
I can't look.
While 3PO says, Captain Solo is doomed, R2. There's no way we can help him. And I mean, he's right, but...
As I just scroll down here, because I'm looking at this sideways on the tablet I have, and I just see without the caption, it looks like 3PO is just going, I know him!
Because he's pointing at the screen, yeah.
Look! Han's on TV!
R2, it's our friend from work.
Well, how did he get on television? And he, by the way, I love the, the really accentuated light beam coming off of 3PO there.
Oh, the lens flare, yeah.
The lens flare, yeah, where it's just like, good lord, he is real shined up here.
Yeah, no, he is. Speaking of getting shined up, let's get into this issue here because we start in on what is supposedly an X-Wing, but I don't know.
Yeah, they tell me this is an X-Wing. This has the basic shape of an X-Wing, but it's all wrong.
First and foremost, it's in the middle of flying, and its landing struts are down. Come on. This is basic, people.
It's true. It's true. It's pew pew and all. This looks like the Walgreens spaceship that you get that's non-Star Wars brand.
Yeah, this is Space Battle X-Wing.
Yeah. And you're like, and your grandfather doesn't know the difference.
Right, exactly.
Sure, a kid likes space toys. I got a lot of those as a kid. He's like, this is from what?
This is the classic character Churburker from Space Battle.
Anyway, this is Pew Pewing, and it's really trying to open this book up with some big action.
Right, because we have this whole description of this X-Wing swooping in from nowhere and destroying this Rularian pleasure yacht that has just departed from the Wheel. Because lest we forget, all of our action is taking place on this giant space station that is nothing but casinos called the Wheel.
The wheel in the sky keeps on turning. That's all I can think about every time I see this.
It's true, but thanks to the relative motion of space, the turning helps create gravity. That's why it does that, John.
That's why it actually, little known fact, actually, Journey wrote that song about this.
Journey very ahead of its time in terms of space station development.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So once again, we are promising a death game.
Yeah, we are in the middle of a death game, but the game is afoot as this X-Wing, a rebel X-Wing, shoots down a civilian ship. And it's like, rebels shooting civilians? Why would that happen?
I know. Immediately from page 1, I'm going, what is going on here?
Even though the last 2 issues have been about a weird cover-up in which the Empire is trying to make it look like rebels are attacking people.
Which I gotta say is such an interesting idea that is not fleshed out in the rest of the story at all, basically.
Other than like
it is just a thing that's going on. It is not like a focus of the plot here.
But it is like this whole issue is about that. It's just really boring, is all.
It's just so interesting. It's just like, why do we have to be on a casino station when that's an interesting idea? Wouldn't there'd be an interesting idea about the rebels trying to prove that they're not doing this or something? Instead, it's kind of just everybody running around the space station.
If we were in a location in which the rebels had some kind of stake in public opinion, if they were in a location in which the rebels and the Empire were warring for the hearts and minds of the local populace, that would be one thing.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, right?
But we're in a location that is already so morally deprived and removed from that conflict that everyone here specifically is here because we don't care about the politics of what's going on. We just want to gamble and watch people die and try to swindle each other.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm talking about. Where it's this just doesn't have an impact on the plot. It's this thing that's just happening, and everybody's like, yeah, but it's not affect. Our characters are in danger because Han Solo's in a gladiatorial pit, not because people think he's responsible for terrorist attacks.
Right, and because Leia is kind of the princess in the proverbial castle for most of the issue, we don't see anyone who might react to her because she's such a face of the rebellion. If we had crowds of people going you're Princess Leia, you're in charge of the rebellion, and the rebellion is killing our people, what the fuck?
Right, exactly. No, God, no.
No, because there is no chance... there is nothing... What is it? There is nothing chance or random in the rebel craft. Craft's appearance. This is weirdly written. It is a carefully calculated move in a vast and deadly scheme. A death game, if you will. Because,
and then, let's go inside the inside within the glittering gambling palaces of the Wheel's inner rim city.
I will say we've been praising Goodwin the last couple of issues of having like a lighter touch with the narrative captions.
This week, folks.
Not in this week. No, he sort of just like 30 or 40 years in the past, he heard us praising him and went, "Oh, that's what they think, huh? Well, jokes on them.
I'll show them." Yeah. The other thing, there were several times during this that I had to go back and reread a couple of his like phrasings. Where I'm like, oh, that's a weird way to say that.
This doesn't happen to me a lot, but it happened to me this issue, which is so fascinating because it's such a slight issue. Otherwise, it's only 17 pages. Mm-hmm. I had to go back and reread pages of this because, like, I'd gotten through, specifically at this early chunk, I'd read through, like, 4 or 5 pages, and then as I was getting further into the book, I realized, like, I didn't absorb any of what was actually said in those last few pages.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like I had to go back and go, like, no, wait, what did he say? What is that implying? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all right, yeah. Way too complex, and yet not complex. This issue's a mess.
It's not necessarily complex. It's just wordy in a way that is just like doesn't impact the plot.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean. It's overwritten. Is I guess what I mean when I say complex. Where you're just going like, there wasn't an easier way to say that. Especially, I mean, look, I'm all for, heady comic book writing, but it's like we're just trying to have a zippy space adventure here, folks.
Right. Because, yes, we then have our TIE fighters deployed from... Okay, I thought it was a Star Destroyer that Commander Strom has been flying, but this thing is consistently drawn in this issue as, like, I don't know, like a skillet in space or something. Like, it looks like a frying pan most of the time.
It does. Is he trying to go for, like, an aircraft carrier look, where it's like even though that... But that doesn't make any sense because you're landing inside of it. It's not the... But it looks like he's trying to do the, like, smooth runway of the aircraft carrier, but it's on the bottom of the ship. It's so weird.
But the top of the ship is flat, too. Like, you sometimes see these frying pans. They're like these big oblong skillets, right, that you just place on the stove top. It looks like one of those.
Yeah. And that's what we want spaceships to look like.
It's crockery.
Yeah. Well, it is so interesting to see, once again, and always, the caveat of this whole thing is we know there's only the one movie to go off of, right?
Right, yeah.
So, but it is interesting to see when they try to add their own, like, designs to this universe, just how weird it is because we're so familiar with what the basic ship design of Star Wars is.
Right.
To see just go like, that would never be in Star Wars. And same thing with like the aliens. Like a lot of these aliens running around the wheel, you're going like, that is so far off model for anything in the realm of Star Wars looking alien.
But we do get a couple of advanced ties coming out of this carrier and go blow up that X-Wing.
Very cool. I mean, I think we have talked about this before. Infantino, he draws a good explosion, man. Look at that thing going up.
Yeah, this last panel on that page is the TIE fighters. And we also get a couple of aliens chattering at each other, being like, what, the rebels are attacking? Well, the Empire's defending us? Okay, I guess they're okay. Because, yeah.
Anyway, back to gambling.
Specifically, one of the aliens says, I knew those rebels were crazy. At least the Empire had the sense to keep its hands off the wheel.
Look, but I don't care who's in charge as long as they're not hassling us.
I mean, that seems to be the approach here. But obviously, this play is so that the Empire can kind of weasel its way into taking control of the wheel and have the citizens? Do people live on the wheel? I don't know.
Unclear. Yeah, I will say this is a perfect example of, I think, a big problem with a lot of this book, and something that most other Star Wars is good about is the wheel is an interesting idea in the world of Star Wars that this doesn't actually bother to explore in any interesting, at least not so far.
Yeah.
It's all because it's all ultimately about, like, let's go to the next page here. It's all ultimately just sort of this like political machinations of these two assholes.
Right, because we cut to Leia throwing a fit front of senator and administrator. It goes back and forth in this issue. He prefers to be called senator, even though the Senate doesn't exist anymore. But he is technically the administrator.
He is the administrator of the wheel, but he used to be part of the Galactic Senate, and he still would like you to call him senator. So I'm already confused. This is already hurting my brain.
Anyway, he's Gray Shade, very on the nose name.
Every time it comes up, I'm like, come on. That just shows you that there was no editorial oversight on this book, right? They were just like, great, whatever, it looks fine, get it out.
Sure. And look, it's a comic book. You can have on-the-nose names. One of my favorite comic book characters is literally named Dr. Doom. I'm not throwing stones at these sorts of things.
That's my all-time, that's a number one supervillain for me. So, yeah. You'll hear no unkind words about Victor Von Doom here.
Right. And, like, literally Doom is in his name. So, like,
it is.
I'm not...
But there's something about, this is a comic book, but it's also continuing Star Wars. So it's this weird thing where you're putting it in my mindset of, like, yeah, sure, in the Star Wars comic, that's fine. If that showed up in a movie, I'd be like, oh, come on.
Look, John, the main bad guy's name is Dark Father. What are you expecting here?
Yeah, but that's at least, like, obfuscated by one level.
By the word Darth and the fact that Vader only means father in, what, Dutch or something?
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, at least there's, once again, one level deeper. This guy's name is just Gray Shade. He exists in shades of gray. If it was like, if it actually was Lord Darkfather, you'd be like, I don't like this movie. And boy, I swear she gets harsher looking every week with this book.
Yeah, her eyebrows are certainly all over the place. The angular nature of her bosoms just is constantly distracting to me.
It is. Everything in Infantino is sharp.
Yeah.
Like, there's no curves to the body of anyone at all, or there's not a lot of, like, sort of just natural softness of a human face or body. So yeah, everything on this woman. Look at how sharp the ends of her cloth like dress is.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna cut you.
I recently saw a pretty brilliant cosplay of someone dressing up as Lara Croft from the Tomb Raider video games, but specifically the polygonal PS1 era Lara Croft.
I have seen that. It's pretty great.
And this is what that reminds me of.
It is very much that, where it is just like, I'm sorry, what must everything be this? Yeah, I mean, look, who am I to question Carmine Infantino? But it is like, I don't know, maybe some anatomy classes wouldn't have hurt him.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing.
It's very stylized. And talk about stylized. Oh, man, this 70s outfit on Gray Shade. Good gow.
Yeah, he's got like a Dracula collar without the cape. It's just attached to a vest. He's got these poofy pirate arms. Or actually, no, there is a cape, but it only appears in the last bottom right panel.
Well, I'll say there's some, number one, and also just because it's the 70s, I just see this page, and anytime I read older comics, it's just like, look at all these words. Look at how much of this page is filled with words.
I love the second panel here because it is such a classic example of how much time is actually taking place in between the action and the words being said here. Because Leia is kicking over a table, like I said, throwing a fit about just like, Gray Shade, you're a son of a bitch, is basically the whole page, right?
Yeah. You never wasted an opportunity to enrich yourself at the expense of others. As wheel administrator, I thought you'd fight the Empire's scheme to fake rebel attacks so they'd be justified in taking over the place and all the wealth it brings in. But that ugly charade we've just witnessed proves you're going along with them, she says while kicking a table. And also, I mean, you want to talk about anatomy or human motion. What is the position of her body as she's kicking this table? Because that doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay. This is the only way it made sense to me, and I thought the exact same thing while I was reading this, is the chair, she's like at a, 75-degree angle to the floor here. So the only thing I could think is that her right foot is planted on the ground, and you can kind of see her knee is bent there a little bit. She has pushed herself backwards so that the chair, which is apparently on rollers, rolls away from her. She's pushing herself back and down so that her left leg can come up and kick the table up from beneath.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
No, because in the next panel we see her,
she's
standing upright as opposed to having fallen over. But whatever.
I agree. That's what I'm looking at here. Also, I just love the idea of a chair on rollers in Star Wars. When do you ever see somebody push a chair and it goes rolling away in Star Wars? That's insane. That's another thing. Imagine while she's saying this, you're also just hearing as that chair rolls across the floor.
I want to see a stormtrooper and his buddy in a rolly chair pushing down the hallway of a Star Destroyer so badly. And just like them coming around, zipping around a corner, being confronted by Darth Vader, and them going,
Lord Vader.
Shit, as the chair slowly rolls to a stop.
Lord Vader, yes, no, a wonderful day we're having, yes.
Well, Lord Vader, the floors just got waxed, and we get some really good rollies right after that happens.
You can really get a running start. It's like, you don't have to tell me about Office Chair Olympics.
Seems pretty wizard, if you ask me.
Yeah, you're right, though. He has no cape until the last panel, and then it comes out of nowhere. And also, Princess Leia is holding on to a knife.
That's the whole thing. Is this all seems to be a ploy on Leia's part to like basically secrete a knife from this tea set that she's knocked over in the first panel?
Yeah, it's unclear what's going on exactly there. You see the knife in air as she kind of reaches out for it there on the first panel, and then you realize she still has it at the end. But also, folks, welcome back. The horniest robot in all of Star Wars, Master Com.
Master Com with your techno nipples, save me.
That's what I imagine just plays every time he comes in a room. How y'all doing?
Hey there, Master
Com. What is this thing that's on the ground here?
It's a vacuum droid.
It feels like it did not get a whole lot of detail put in there, did it?
Yeah, it's a space Roomba. Don't worry about it. I think he technically calls it a servo droid.
Get that servo droid in here. Oh, with pleasure, baby.
Yeah.
Master Com.
Because Gray Shade leaves the room because he doesn't have time for Leia's emotional outbursts. He has to go make sure that their special guest is taken care of.
Whatever. She's probably on her period.
Jesus Christ. I mean, that sounds like a Gray Shade thing to say. Yeah.
Oh, come on, with that mustache? And
whatever the equivalent of widow's peaks are if they're coming out of your sideburns.
Yeah, man, he's starting a whole new thing.
He's got the widow's peak in the center of his forehead,
yeah.
But then he's got two other points on his hair that are near his temples, and they're not widow's peaks. I guess they would be like dowager widow's peaks.
All I know is this guy's taken well over an hour to get ready in the morning.
Oh yeah, 100%.
This is meticulously crafted. So we get this insane...
of meticulously crafted. Let's spend an entire page of him getting on several layers of transportation to move through the system.
My God, I did. This is where I knew this issue was in trouble. Also, I know that they're going for like effect, but why does this like elevator shaft narrow greatly down the stretch there? Look at that thing. Gotta go squeeze it in there.
It's supposed to be like a forced perspective thing, and it's just drawn weirdly.
It's not working.
No.
Frequently when I say what's going on here, I know what they're trying to do. It's just going like, but you're failing. It looks like he was just like, oh wait,
I'm trying to help describe it for the people who aren't on YouTube and watching it and reading along with us. Those of you who are just on the podcast, there is a tube that is drawn that he's like going down this vacuum lift, as it's called. And somebody fucked up the line work, and it just looks like the tube is just narrowing way too quickly.
Yeah, it looks like when you're writing something, you realize you've run out of room, so it starts to shrink down. And then he just never erased anything and went with like, I just got to move it on the next panel.
It's the happy birthday where the A and the Y at the end are slightly smaller.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah.
And then, it's like, oh, that's not enough. Then he's got to get into this little rocket car.
Yeah, we spend a whole page of him riding an elevator and then him riding in what is effectively the mall Segway of the wheel, which is this transport tube bullet ship that he then can ride around the outside of the wheel on.
I was gonna say, I've written for the comics medium, and like panels, and anyone who's done it at all, you think about the real estate of a page, right? And like, how much story can I put in panels? Here's a book that just doesn't give a fuck. It's just like, whatever, here's a whole page showing a guy moving from one place to another.
And maybe, if there was dialogue in these pages that, like, impacted the plot in any way, shape, or form, or if there were captions telling us important information that might be relevant, that would be one thing. But literally every bit of dialogue or caption work in the first 4 panels in this page are just describing him going to another place.
And then he acts shitty to a robot driver and insists he be called Senator.
I mean, I believe that's just another Mastercom unit, isn't it?
This was my question, too. His little Uber driver is also just Mastercom again.
Right. Mastercom can appear throughout the station as different robot bodies.
That seems to be the case. But then even, like, when you read the captions, it's all just describing the journey we're looking at. With the hiss of forced air, the bullet-shaped craft hurls along the tube, one of many running up and down the wheel's main spoke. Who cares? I can see it, number one.
Yeah, like I said, even the caption we're here is just describing him going someplace else that A, we're seeing, and B, isn't relevant to the plot.
And then the last page is just the ship docked, and he's like, let's get some drinks.
Yeah, I guess this is Commander Strom saying this as he says, Grey Shade, this time I'll pour the drinks, for our newly formed partnership is off to a fine start.
Ha ha ha, we're bad guys.
Yeah, and now we just get several pages of bad guy talks on Strom's skillet ship.
This is legitimately terrible. These next couple pages are just the two of them talking about, like, oh, I'm doing evil things. Well, I'm doing evil things too.
Yeah, I don't want to get into a lot of the dialogue here because it is kind of clunky and stupid and covering a lot of the stuff we've already covered.
I was going to say, and it's telling us nothing we don't already know.
Yeah, which, again, 70s comics, especially in this era of Marvel, where it's like the first issue you're reading could be this issue, so they've got to recap some of this stuff. And I get that, but spending a whole page just reiterating how the evil, bald, Nazi-looking motherfucker is the bad guy is unnecessary because of how he's drawn. This is Lex Luthor dressed as a Nazi.
It is, and I gotta say, I usually expect better tailoring from the Empire. Look at those sleeves.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a sloppy Susan going on here with these sleeves.
I recently lost some weight, and they haven't given me a new uniform. Look at that thing. Look at that boy. That belt is cinched in the bunch up of fabric. This thing is hanging loose off of him.
This is his comfy, like, Sunday, like extra clothes while all the other stuff is in the wash.
These are this is my lounging uniform, and we're gonna. This book loves to have characters lounge, and we're gonna get more lounging, baby.
Oh, yeah. If you thought Captain Jack or Crimson Jack was a lounger, just wait until you see Captain Strom lounging later in this issue.
And then, okay, so we already, on the last page, we saw the skillet ship docked on the wheel. Mm-hmm. Then we get this shot of the two of them having drinks. Then back to, for no reason, outside the ship skillet again with just dialogue.
Make it's space, John. Don't you know? You got to eventually show us more space. I want to put it into...
Think about that. Could you imagine if a movie did an establishing shot, then a 2-shot of a conversation, then back out to an establishing shot, then back into close-ups? That's
unless there had been, like, detail changes on the exterior that were important to the story, that would be an insane prospect. But this is comics, John. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Well, no, we can't. It's one of the, we can do it, but should we do it? Is a good question here. My favorite,
especially when you have two big dialogue bubbles coming out of that spaceship, and if you don't see the characters who are talking, there's no way of telling those dialogue bubbles apart. Is kind of a problem.
Well, yeah, because these two characters don't have any difference in how they talk. They're both just sniving bad guys.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick up who's talking based on context, but the context is, we're both evil.
That's the thing, is a gray shade could have, I don't know, maybe more shades of gray. Instead, they're both just kind of bastards talking about how they love being bastards to people.
Because basically what they're doing is they're reiterating the plan that the Empire is making it look like the rebellion has turned against the wheel, so that when the Empire inevitably seizes control of the wheel, the people of the wheel will just kind of accept it.
Yes, exactly. I love this drink serving droid, though. Your martini, sir.
Star Wars has a long, proud history of drink service droids.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what R2 was doing on Jabba's barge, of course, in Jedi.
Absolutely. We'll on the YouTube channel, we'll talk about, I think it'll probably already be up there by the time this episode comes out, is our review of Jedi Survivor.
Oh, yeah, definitely,
the new video game. And that's got a very good bartending droid in it.
It sure does. The finest bartending droid this side of Tatooine.
But yeah,
really
let's go to this next page here.
I was just going to say, the really disturbing thing, though, before we go to the next page, is that close-up of Strom laughing. Boy, that's going to haunt me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Strom's emotional, where he's at here, because
he's over the place, man.
On this next
unhinged.
page, we have this conversation continuing on, and basically Gray Shade's whole thing is just like, look, so long as you're not cutting into the profits, you're going to get your cut, and we're all going to be happy. And then he says, but I intend to move cautiously. Gray Shade says, but I intend to move cautiously, and I strongly suggest you do the same with the Empire's business. And Strom freaks the fuck
That
out.
sounds almost like a threat, but not real. And he's just like, yeah, and he throws his drink down. Keep in mind, just 2 panels ago, he was chuckling evilly and going, oh, so, and then he's just like, maybe be a little careful. Are you threatening me, you son of a bitch?
Because Strom says, that sounds like a threat. And
Almost
Gray Shade
like
says,
a threat. I have to interpret as one.
Gray Shade says, it's good advice, Commander. And Strom responds with, I won't run a military operation to suit the pace of your schoolboy romance, Gray Shade. Again, doubling down on the fact that Gray Shade has a thing for Princess Leia, which is
it just
gross.
A creep. He's got a creep stash. He's just a creep.
Mm-hmm. But Strom continues, and any politician's trick to make me do so will backfire fatally. And the fatally, I do like the pacing here because it's emphasizing that the throwing of a glass down on the floor is him emphasizing, and if you try to make me do what you want, I will kill you. But to emphasize that with the throwing of a glass on the floor is just such an escalation of force here.
Especially when, he's sort of kind of threatening him. You should move cautiously. I suggest you be careful about things. And then just go, I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah, Strom is unhinged.
Yeah. And then, but then, once again, too wordy. So he does that. That makes its point. But then he's like, I believe in action, Senator. And I'm not departing the wheel until I see some from you. It's like... And then finally, where are the bodies? I want to see some dead people right now.
Well, because the whole thing is Gray Shade is like, okay, I will kill all the rebels who have snuck onto the station that Strom chased here. That's totally fair. I get to keep Princess Leia because I'm a creep, but I will absolutely make sure that all of her friends are dead before you leave.
Now, you're a murderer and I'm a rapist, so we both have to have
Yeah. Both got our games here.
Yeah. And then, of course, we got to flash back to the Millennium Falcon coming upon that destroyed ship from the last issue, from from a House of Tag merchant ship.
I'm still a little bit just House of Tag, that's a thing. I can't believe it started this early.
That is nice, but it's just how much previously can one comic do is the question.
A lot.
Yeah. Here's an issue for those who haven't been paying attention. We're just going to spend this whole issue catching you up.
Especially considering that whole, destroying the House of Tag merchant ship. is reiterated at the start of this issue with that X-Wing, right? Like, they
Yes,
did
yeah.
the thing again. You don't need to remind us that they already did the thing before, because you did the thing again, just to reiterate.
They seem to be reiterating, like, okay, you've been doing this thing, and also it was it's already dangerous you're doing a thing. Mm-hmm. Now it's even more dangerous because you did this thing to a specifically powerful thing. Like, this seems to just be indicating, no, but it was House of Tag, which, once again, we only know through years of later context.
I've just been
so at
rereading...
this point, this wouldn't have meant anything, even.
Like, very recent Star Wars comics have actually dealt with the House of Tag in some big ways during the, like, War of the Bounty Hunters crossover.
But, like...
And everything to do with Afra in that crossover. Through
context clues, you can figure out, oh, that's, high society, big-time stuff. But that doesn't have, like, a ton of impact right now if you're just reading this, to the point where you need a separate other flashback to go like, oh, and House of Tag.
Yeah. No, it has no context here.
Weird. And then it's like, oh, and what are we? How many pages into this are we? We're like 6 or 7 pages in at this point?
Yeah.
8? I guess 7, because not counting the cover. And it's like, oh, and what about the main characters of Star Wars? What are they up to? Well, let me tell you.
Yeah, because on this next page we have, don't worry, we'll take care of them. Let's have Mastercom patch some sightings from his scanner into your communication systems here. So we get our recap on where everyone's at.
Mastercom, please check in with the main characters of Star Wars. Yeah, so Luke
and Mastercom, of course, saying, "Oh yeah, I'll check in."
Oh yeah, baby, they're all hotties. Luke is in the hospital because he's in some sort of state of shock from what he got too much of a force meld or whatever.
He got a force vision that kind of knocked him off his rocker for a little bit. And the fact that this book actually doesn't recap that is kind of weird considering everything else that's recapped.
Yeah, they just talk about that one of Princess Leia's friends is here in the Wheel Hospital, apparently in some strange state of shock. Also, just the idea that they're like, one of Leia's friends, he's not a super important guy or anything.
They don't know that he's Luke Skywalker, so I guess
they don't, but they do know Chewbacca and Han Solo because they'll call them by name.
Well, and they've also been processed into the great game.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, did I say Chewbacca? I meant Sasquatch. I'm sorry. I've got
of Alpha Flight fame?
Yeah, it seems like this is Sasquatch of Alpha Flight because, man, he is looking less and less like Chewbacca in every issue.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with him here. He's got like a jumping jack flash, kind of like they're giving him an old Kashyyyk Hotfoot.
The old Kashyyyk Hotfoot.
Yeah, he's jumping
what's with his
through
feet?
Fire holes. I don't know what's happening in this page.
But when did Chewbacca ever have like human feet like that?
He does. You never see them in shot because he's always like much taller than everybody else. But he does have like big Sasquatch feet.
Let me check it. I'm gonna destroy my.
You're typing Chewbacca's feet into Google.
Yeah. Chewbacca feet.
Oh boy, John, that is a dark search.
Okay, he does, but once again, there's more fur on them. Like, I'm looking at them.
They're more ape-like.
Yes, exactly. They are. I'm actually looking at, and I didn't. Of course, this is like, oh, look at this. Everybody, if you can just find this photo of Peter Mayhew in full costume sitting in his chair on set, it's pretty funny. Like, full movie, quality Chewbacca just sitting waiting for the next take.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we've been really booking it through pages today, am I right? Oh boy. Chewbacca on the phone with his agent.
I love the idea of Chewbacca highlighting his lines of like grrg, warg, grrr.
He's writing subtext and tactics for each thing. Let's see here. I think I'm mad on this one. My subtext is, how could you, Han? And then what is Han doing? He's got a, I don't even understand what I'm looking at here. I mean, I kind of do, but he's got, okay.
What we're told with the captions here is that Han and Chewie are both they've both been enlisted into the gladiator gladiatorial. Good Lord.
Gladiatorial, yes.
The gladiatorial combat that's happening on the wheel. And in this issue, it's called The Big Game. I think last issue it was called something else.
And I'm sure next week it'll be called something even different.
Yeah. But for now, it's The Big Game because they can't legally call it the Super Bowl.
The Big Game trailer.
Yeah, exactly. So what Chewbacca is doing, the giant Wookiee, which I never considered him especially large for a Wookiee. But
yeah, I thought that too. I'm like, is that implying that other Wookiees are smaller than him? Okay.
I don't know. But he's jumping across fire holes. There's literally holes in the ground that are shooting fire, and he's leaping through them.
Good luck, Chewbacca, with the fire hose.
Meanwhile, Han is in the danger room.
Yeah, it does. It looks exactly like that.
There's a weird.
Why did you draw some X-Men stuff in this?
There's a sphere above him, and he's got a double-sided spatula, and he's using that spatula to stop laser blats from hitting him.
You know what? I didn't expect so much kitchen equipment in this issue. Skillets, spatulas.
I think Infantino was just really hungry when he was drawing this issue.
I better make a grilled cheese.
French toast sounds great right now.
Let's see. I'm gonna need a skillet and a spatula. Oh wait, did I draw those? Oh no. But it is like what this? What? Okay. And also, it is the insane thing where it's like, oh no, I'm going to kill these people. Strom, just in incredibly complex and time-consuming manners.
Right. Like, nothing is stopping him from just shooting these two. But no, because what we'll find out is that these two sequences that Han and Chewie are in are like training sims to rate them at a specific level so that they can be assigned correct combat partners in the big game.
I love that. When they talk about that later, doesn't Han say something about this guy's outside of my weight class or something like that?
And then on the next page, we find out that we're gonna throw them into the big game. Everyone's gonna make money on this, and they'll die. We're all gonna be happy.
But once again, they talk about on the next page. It is just like, so that's what happened to them. But didn't they have some droids with them? What are those crazy droids up to?
Oh, they're in a closet somewhere.
Han, of course, as we know from last week, sold them for gambling stake.
Yeah, without their consent. Again, don't worry about droid ethics in Star Wars.
Yeah, whatever. And then we're back to the outside of the ship again. It is like, by all means, just default to showing ships with dialogue bubbles.
Right. And again, the fact that the dialogue bubbles then shift to yellow threw me for a loop, because now I really don't know who's talking, because Deadpool's suddenly here.
Well, I will say they do that. It's the same thing where sometimes 3PO has a yellow word bubble and sometimes he doesn't.
That would make more sense just because of color coding and sure, it just distinguishes that he's not an organic
and that's
speaking.
Fine. Just keep it consistent then.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we go to the gladiator pits. I don't know who this guy is, but he's got a real sharp pointy nose.
I'm pretty sure this is Han Solo, whose face has been elongated by the gladiatorial games.
And he's trying to cash in some tickets from the Family Fun Center for a prize.
No, John. He's going over the daily film prints here.
Let's see. Hold on. I got to look at the dailies for that we shot yesterday. Oh, that's pretty good stuff. Yeah. By the way, here's a term I don't know from Star Wars. You guys are jobbing me.
That's
that around
50s slang, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, jobbing me. That would have been out of date then.
Yeah.
And it's Star Wars.
Sure.
2 levels is this failing his dialogue.
Especially having Solo say that feels weird.
You guys are jobbing. Once again, you guys are jobbing. Trying to imagine Harrison Ford saying jobbing. Come on. Yeah, it is Goodwin, what happened this week, man? What happened this month to you? Come on.
I feel like this issue is a little bit rushed. It doesn't help that, this feels to me like a fill-in issue in the middle of this arc.
It really does. And also, this is where he's complaining. You guys are jobbing me. I couldn't have tested out this high. I'll be fighting way out of my class.
Yeah, so what the things that these Han Solo is actually looking at is apparently, test results.
Come on here. I didn't do this well. This must be somebody else. There must be a mistake. These got switched with somebody else.
And the employee of the wheel says, it surprised us too, Solo, but that's what the skill and reaction printout says. And who are we to question the machine?
Never question the skill and reaction printout. Hold on, the printout's coming through now.
So, does that imply that each contestant gets an individual test in the way that we saw Chewbacca and Han doing two separate things? Or does that imply that Han also had to jump through the fire holes and Chewbacca also had to wield the spatula?
Yeah, I guess so, maybe. And then I also why complain? This puts you in a much higher paying preliminary. Yeah, why complain that you'll die instantly in gladiatorial combat?
Well, especially when we find out on the next page that, he's not allowed to use a blaster. So, what weapon can Han Solo use that's not a blaster?
Well, this is insane. He's talking, what's your specialty? And he goes well, I don't know. You won't let me use blasters. How about flying a ship? And they're like, no, you can't do either of those things. That's literally all I do.
And bullshit my way out of scenarios. That's what Han Solo can do.
It's insane to me. Instead, he's going to get, he's going to get some kind of, I don't know, electro shield and mace.
Look, he's clearly put in a couple of levels into Cleric, and that lets him use Mace and Shield, and implies a little holy power on them as well.
I mean, look at that. Yeah, it is just, we're getting, and then once again, boom, cut to outside of that ship, baby.
Yeah.
And that moment is not long coming.
Yeah, because the guard says, very funny. We'll see if you're still laughing when you reach the arena. Implying that, okay, you don't have any specialties that we can equip you with? Well, tough, you're going to die.
Despite the fact we have put you in that situation to die, and then kind of took the attitude of, what are you complaining about?
Why test him?
Yeah, I don't even understand. This is so dumb.
Speaking of big dumb things, cut to at the bottom of this page. Yeah, Han coming out with his mace and shield because apparently he is a servant of the great god Palor now. And
these were. Oh, I found these leftover props from a Conan comic we just put out.
That's exactly what they look like. Yeah,
by
it's a big
Crom.
Ball spiked mace. It's such a classic looking, just fantasy weapon, and a shield with a big spike in the middle of it. It looks like something out of a Conan comic.
It doesn't fit in Star Wars at all.
Speaking of things that don't fit in Star Wars, let's talk about our Goro stand-in here, because his tusks have definitely changed orientation since the cover.
Well, he's clearly pulled them off and is using them as weapons here.
That's what confused me, right? Okay, this guy's got 4 spike things, one in each hand, and we'll find out later they're called dagger thorns.
I think that's
we find it on this next page.
Yeah,
it's
dagger
just a double
thorns,
page spread.
And we find that out because of the Han Solo thought bubble, of course. Dagger thorns,
which are so specific that Han can pick them out. Because he goes, dagger thorns. Those things secrete venomous sap. Just a scratch is enough to kill. So
great.
Han Solo apparently tested so well that he's, in his preliminary match, supposed to fight this gigantic, 4-armed, toothy-mawed, scaly monster who, on top of all of that, is wielding weapons that can instantly kill you if you touch them.
Hey, man, that's what the tests say, all right?
And he's not allowed to use blasters, his primary mode of weapon.
Check the printout, okay? What does it say?
Could he not have asked for a lightsaber?
Excuse me. Do you have a, it does seem like he. What they end up giving him. I mean, shouldn't he have vibroblades? Really, is of course what we would know later on would be what the thing. And these are almost kind of precursors to them.
My headcanon is okay, that's what these are, and
we
just don't have the words for that yet.
Yeah, but also it does just feel like once again they took these medieval Conan weapons, and they go, can we put like an energy aura around them to space them up a little bit?
Sure. You couldn't have just like drawn a circuit pattern on any of them to make them more future-y?
Yeah. You could take the basic shape and give them a little bit more. No, they just put like an emanating sort of energy wave, and we're good. I mean,
I'd actually would have liked it more if there was Kirby crackle around them, but that's just me.
Oh, yeah, sure. Because that always says spacey.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time.
But this just indicates how little they give a shit about this comic at this point, right? Like, it's just like, I don't know, man. There's nobody
I don't even know if it's necessarily give a shit. It's just like, what do these people know, and how much thought are we putting into it on a day-to-day basis? And the answer is, like, we don't know much because we've only had the one movie, and how much effort is being put into it changes week to week. And I don't think that's necessarily Goodwin's problem. I think this is a lot of, like, Infantino just being like, I don't know, fuck it, it's a space thing.
But I mean, this is really a time. It's the exact opposite of what we were talking about earlier, where everything now is sort of like a focused miniseries with an arc and stuff like that. Back then, it was just like, we just need a book this month. Just keep it going. It's just about keeping the machine going, right? It's just about we got to put something out.
And some issues feel more, I don't know, well thought out and well like produced than others. And that's the thing with monthly comics is sometimes you just like, it's a roller coaster ride, man. Like, it's not all going to be winners.
Yeah. Especially at this time, we're really not like crafting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, say what you will even about some of the greats. Like, we're talking like Claremont's X-Men. Like, there are ups and downs in that run.
Oh, yeah. Well, number one, it goes on forever. So you're telling me that nothing's going to be good for like 17 years.
Right.
Consistently every month.
There are some filler issues in Walt Simonson's Thor run that I was just like, okay, moving on.
All I know is Han gets co-wudded good here.
He gets a big fucking co-wud. Because, he's fighting this guy. There's some back and forth. Han's constantly thinking at himself, even though we see what's going on. Don't worry about it. Eventually, he whams the monster with his mace, and apparently snaps it off at the hilt.
Say what you will. He gets a good wham in.
He gets a good wham. But that's only after he dodges a shrip.
Yeah, and that was going to be a fatal shrip.
Also, if these dagger thorns are presumably part of something else, how are they still secreting venom?
Oh, well.
Now that they've been broken off.
There's a question nobody thought about. They just secrete venom.
All right, whatever. Anyway, Han gets co-wudded. He gets kicked in the face.
Yeah. I think they just like the term secrete venom.
That's fair. I actually think he gets kicked in the chest because he complains about broken ribs here in a second.
Yeah, and that does kind of look like that there. And so he gets sent flying across. So we better check in with the, what's the crowd think of this?
They love it.
They're loving it. Buy low, sell high. We're basically, does this look like a trading floor?
Look, all we know is that betting on Han Solo is for closers.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Because it says everyone has stopped what they're doing to watch the big game. They're watching Han Solo get the shit kicked out of them.
Simula scenery.
Sure, it's not the holodeck. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I just love the last caption of this first panel. The crowd sniffs blood. That's blood.
We love blood. Hooray, blood. Blood.
But I'll tell you who's having a real good time. Strom.
Remember what we were talking about lounging earlier?
Apparently he bought this couch off of Crimson Jack's ship. Because look at him. That's the same thing. And look at this. He's got a martini in hand and a droid on the way with another.
Well, specifically, this is the Grand Casino's Royal Lounge. So this isn't on his starship.
Right. Yeah, that's right. No, yeah, this is... I'm sorry, the Wheel has the same furniture dealer as Crimson Jack.
So what I'm assuming happened is Crimson Jack ripped off a casino, stole some of their lounge chairs, and installed them on his Star Destroyer.
So insane, he didn't take any money, he just took our chairs. Well, they are good chairs, man. But yeah, and he's just like, oh, that's the stuff. And just Gray Shade standing in the corner going, satisfied, Strom? Not too bad.
there's some kink going on here that I don't have time to analyze.
Oh, yeah. I just, oh, man. And back to, once again, this guy is all over the place. Have we considered a bipolar diagnosis for Strom? He's back to like, yeah, baby. Love it.
Yeah. I was in a blind fury a couple of pages ago, but now I'm totally soothed and relaxed as I watch a man get beat to death on live TV.
Yo, this is exactly what I needed.
Yeah,
so
and we find out that Strom has given his crew shore leave so that they can gamble on the proceedings. And Grayshade's like, well, your crew's having a good time, so you look like a good commander. And they're losing their money, so I'm making money, so I'm having a good time too. We're both just bastards. Remember that fact.
Every single page with these two is just like, God, I love being a piece of shit, don't you? It's so much fun. But anyway, meanwhile, I also forget his name is Simon Grayshade. Simon's such a good bad guy name, too. Simon Grayshade. Good evening, Mr. Bond. Shall we meet again, Grayshade?
He would make a great Bond villain.
Grayshade is a perfect Bond villain name.
Yeah.
His name is Simon Grayshade 007.
He runs a series of expensive casinos around the world. Your mission...
That's kind of what it is. They call them the Wheel.
Yeah.
Now that I think of it, this whole thing just is a Bond story.
And in that story, Strom would be like a KGB like general,
right? Yeah, he's working with Smirch.
Uh-huh.
All right, and then a little while here come 3PO and R2 in their closet.
Yeah, and we have a worker coming in being like, okay, drop them. We got to rinse out your brain.
Unfasten your faceplate, Goldie. Ew.
Yeah, no, this has got a real, like, prison abuse kind of feel to it.
Drop and spread them, 3PO.
Yeah.
No, why? Sir, that appears to be a memory flash unit.
I do love the idea that, like, in the technical world of droid maintenance, we still use the word flush.
we gotta flush those memories out of this robot's head. There must be some mistake.
Another robot intercedes because, yes, that's right. It's time for the sexiest droid in the galaxy to come back. It's Mastercom.
Oh yeah, I'll take it from here, fellas.
The droids are a subject of a study I'm conducting. They must come with me.
A sexy study. And I don't like machines pulling rank, but then again, you are Mastercom. So.
Who am I to question Mastercom?
Oh, this is the wording I had to go back on a few times. Okay, I want to read this because this is so weirdly and convolutedly worded. Mm-hmm. I don't like machines pulling rank, but since you're the Wheel's master computer, or at least Senator Grayshade's walking around personalized version of it, I guess I don't have much choice. Walking around personalized version of it was like,
that's
it's just a little
salad.
garbled. Yeah, it's just... it took me a second to go like, you're the master computer. Why even just go, you're the Wheel's master computer? Why add the, or at least Senator Grayshade's? You could even just leave it at, but like walking around personal version of it, .. I guess I don't have much. That's also a lot to put in one word bubble too.
Yeah, and look, there's this thing with older sci-fi where concepts that you and I grasp almost immediately, where it's just like, okay, we're perfectly cognizant of the fact that the Mastercom is the whole ship's computer. It just happens to have an ambulatory body that it can use to interact with people. That's a concept we're totally familiar with in terms of other sci-fi.
Though you are a computer, you are also a robot connected to a larger computer system. Yeah, it is sort of like... They might as well say that.
They have to keep reiterating it in this comic book because I feel like they're just trying to hammer home that concept to people who'd be like, but is he the computer or is he the robot?
I can't follow this gobbledygook. Now, here's a perfect example of 3PO having this yellow shaded...
Yep.
These yellow shaded word balloons. And he does on this panel, the next panel, but then on the third panel of him here, he has one in yellow and one in white.
Yeah, though something I did notice on this, specifically with the lettering, is the droid speech bubbles are more angular and like squared off.
Which I think is great.
And the people speech bubbles is more circular, traditional speech bubbles.
I like that.
I think that's a good differentiation, yeah.
But I like that they were differentiating 3PO and Mastercom by 3PO being in sort of the gold-backed one. But then they break from that within the same panel even.
Well, and it gets even more confusing in this last panel of the page when we cut to a droid in the medical bay and we find out that Luke's somehow broken out of his coma and the hospital here. And it gets confusing because earlier in this page, we have 3PO using the yellow speech bubbles. And so when we see a gold droid in this last panel using yellow speech bubbles, it almost seems like 3PO has teleported to the hospital, but that is not, in fact, 3PO.
Yes. And he has a different color. He has a different shade of gold in his speech bubble.
Yeah, and that might just be a coloring issue for the like digital scans. It's tough to tell sometimes with that.
It's weird.
Because,
also,
Mastercom has interceded and has saved 3PO and R2 because he's compelled to study them because of their loyalty to the rebel friends they arrived with.
Yeah, this is one of those that's like, okay, I understand you like need him to get them out of there, so we're just gonna kind of go, okay.
Well, Mastercom specifically says, your initiative on behalf of your young master from the time you arrived on the wheel has been fascinating. I requested permission from the senator to observe you.
Your loyalty is arousing.
And while he did not specifically grant it, he did not specifically deny it either.
I didn't hear a no.
Oh, Mastercom. Oh, Mastercom. Slow it down.
Oh, yeah. It's time to take you back to Mastercom's swinging pad. Mastercom!
Mastercom.
Oh, yeah. And Isaac Hayes as Mastercom. You damn right.
I'd watch that.
Oh, in a heartbeat, man. In fact, I'm mad that doesn't exist. Oh, yeah. You know, we don't have enough smooth-talking droids in Star Wars.
It's true.
Goddamn right.
Because on the next page, we get a, like, wild illustration of Mastercom in, like, purple and black shadow.
And an alarm is going off, and so his nipple is lighting up. Ooh.
Yep.
Ooh, daddy-like.
His robo-nipples are igniting.
Ooh, hell, it's an alarm going off. That's the stuff. Don't stop.
Because we cut back to Senator Grayshade's suite, and Leia is making her escape with that knife she has.
Yeah, she's making that escape, by just jamming a knife into a circuit breaker or whatever.
I do love her internal monologue here when she says, R2-D2 could have done this without the pyrotechnics, but then he wouldn't have had to do it with a serving knife.
Yeah, that fucking robot has it too good, man. Everything comes easy to him.
I always like when Leia isn't, like, sequestered as the captured princess, right? Like, she keeps getting captured. That's sort of, like, the princess role in a space opera type story sometimes.
Yeah. But
it's very Flash Gordon-y.
Right, but it's a Flash Gordon-y if Dale was able to go like, just pick this lock.
Yeah, exactly. I like that Princess Leia consistently were shown. Every time she is captured in this book so far, it has been a thing where it's like, well, fuck this. I'm just going to break out.
My new favorite, though, is the pose of Mastercom stroking his chin like, I wonder.
Why would a droid have to thoughtfully stroke his mouth?
Also, now he has the gold coloring of 3PO's.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Come on. I mean, this is the kind of stuff where I'm going like, that's just general, like, are you trying to make this hard to follow? Your human friends seem to operate with the same persistence as you two. It is most interesting, but quite futile. Particularly for the princess.
Yeah, we get Mastercom for the next page too as he's leading him out. His dialogue boxes have gone back to white and 3POs have gone back to gold.
Yep. And we also get a questioning, but deep?
I do like all of R2's sounds, though I do not like R2's posture in the fourth panel of this page. And he's like doing a weird forward lean.
Boopy poppy.
Yeah.
Beep a bit. Yeah, that's fine.
He's being excitable because he is watching Han Solo get murdered on a TV.
He's doing, I mean, the swivel effect makes it seem like I've never seen R2 do a double take. What? Stop in his tracks, but like the top part of him is still being carried forward.
I'm actually shocked we've never seen that. It seems like he's perfectly designed to do a double take.
Yeah. Actually, now this is one thing that the comic's improving upon. And then they're all to look at Han Solo on this last panel. They're all doing this weird lean, like, huh?
Yeah, I do like that this final panel is basically a recreation of the cover, albeit in less like detail and color. But
it's him, R2, but he's doomed, and there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, 3PO. What were you going to do in any circumstance? What were you going to do in any circumstance to get him out of a gladiatorial ring?
3PO, if you were standing right there, could you do anything?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's be honest. If 3PO is here to save you, you're doomed anyway. All right.
Best case scenario, he falls through a droid factory and has his head put on a different droid's body.
Oh, the finest moment in all of Star Wars.
That's best case scenario.
You know that they added all that after they shot the movie?
Yeah, because he thought
that.
it needed a fun scene.
Man, just further proof of, look, George Lucas has a lot of good ideas, but sometimes his in-the-moment impulses are just disastrous.
And the fact that he can bend millions of dollars worth of production time into those bad ideas makes it even larger of a disaster.
Well, and what's great is if you watch the scene, as soon as you hear that was shot separately, you're like, no, I see it, because it literally has no bearing on anything else in that scene.
I mean, that's Attack of the Clones in a nutshell, right? It's like, what scenes have any bearing on any other scenes?
Yeah, there's some really cool parts of Attack of the Clones, and
besides
none of them involve
Obi-Wan's very consistent noir detective story that's happening as a separate movie.
And that's a better movie. I love that movie. I'm all on board for noir detective Obi-Wan. Mainly because that's the movie I keep pitching to Disney.
But we cut back to Han. He's in trouble, right? But thankfully, he's learned some lessons from Captain America.
He does. When Han Solo throws his mighty shield.
All who stand against him, his shield will yield.
Yep. He's grabbing the shield, even though it's going to burn his hand, while it beats getting a dagger thorn to the chest.
So he throws it, he hits this thing in the shin, and it falls over with a whum.
And it takes way too long for this to happen. Look at this progression of he picks it up, he throws it, we see the thing hit, and he falls. Now, I understand that logically what I just described makes sense, but there's something weird about the pacing, and I think a lot of it is just that it's taking up the whole page to do this. And two, the constant wordiness.
And that's the thing. When you have a quick, violent motion, it is easy to understand why you would break it down into multiple panels so you can get the details of exactly what's happening. The problem is when you have that in a comic book and then introduce a bunch of captions on top of that, what that forces you to do is instead of like focusing from image to image to image to image to get you a quick like flip book style capture in your head of what just happened, you have to stop and consider each individual image while you also read the captions. So it makes a quick violent motion much slower than it should be.
Then that's a big problem across not just this book, but I feel like a lot of this era of comics is there is this need to explain what's going on without, we keep talking about it, but it's this sort of thing about they're not trusting the visuals to tell the story.
Yeah.
Which is sort of like, well, then why are you writing a comic book? You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like...
Also, I would be interested to know what Marvel's pay scale was for writers at this time and whether or not they're getting paid by the word.
Paid by the word? Yeah, it could be. Because I do think, I mean, a lot of people credit, the Frank Miller Daredevil with sort of being one of the first things to really let the visuals carry it.
Well, and I think Frank Miller is an interesting digression here because you even look at something like Dark Knight Returns, right? Yeah. Whereas that is a book that uses narrating captions specifically and quick cut panels in a way where there are times where it is purposefully slowing down the action so that you have to consider the mentality of the character you're inhabiting here. But they're not, and this is important, describing what's happening on the panel.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's and I think that a lot of that comes from in the 80s because we get the rise of guys like Frank Miller or John Byrne who are writer-artists. So they're thinking of them. Which is sort of like, well, they should have been thinking of this the whole time. But like the medium is the combination of those two, and there is something about when you get somebody who can really write and draw, Simonson as well, right? These are people who are thinking of it as an entwined medium, so it just is so natural. That's why writer-artists scare the shit out of writers, right? Because it's like, man, what do you even need us for? If you can do that, it's always going to be better.
I mean, Jack Kirby was the same way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, like, from his point of view, he was maybe even, like, hindered by his association with writers like Stan Lee.
It's true. I mean, you know, and Kirby had great ideas, man. He was not the greatest dialogue writer, but loved the man, obviously. He's the king. Boy, I don't like any of these close-ups on the next page. What happened to this guy's body?
Pink thumb that has an existential crisis suddenly. He looks like the Centaurans from Doctor Who a little bit here.
He does, yeah, all of a sudden. But I'm like, what did Han do to him that made his whole body, like, expand into a blob?
Well, it got scratched by one of the dagger thorns because, when Han made him trip, he did it so that the thing scratched itself with a dagger thorn, and now it is pissed because it knows it's going to die. So if it's going to die, it's going to take Han Solo with it. So he lums at him with a mighty raroom.
But he's failed in by a crack.
Because Han, in his clever approach to this fight, manages to grab a rock.
I mean, I'll give them this. I will give them this. They don't have Han Solo show any fighting ability I don't believe he would have.
That's true. Yeah, like how does Han Solo, he throws something at a guy's, how does he win? He throws something at a guy's shin and then stops the last blow from killing him with a rock.
I mean, I do like that. It's not like all of a sudden Han Solo is this amazing gladiator. It really is a lot of luck and quick thinking. So I'll give him that. But the best line of dialogue in this is, "Greyshade, you smooth-mouthed fumbler." That is such a comic book villain line.
This is the last page of this issue, and with our last panel is after Han has not died in this first round. Strom is like, "But you promised me him dead."
"I was promised a corpse of a space pirate." But this
Greyshade's rejoinder is, "I'm not certain, Strom, but bear in mind, this was only a preliminary match. Solo must still endure the main event."
There is no chance that this doesn't end up with Han and Chewie fighting, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It has to. I mean, I thought that's what this issue was going to be. Little did I know they're just going to drag this out even longer, though. But of course that's... And next issue, as Han faces that challenge, Luke comes under the shadow of a Dark Lord.
Who is this Dark Lord in a Star Wars book? It could be anybody, John.
Who could it be?
It's a mystery. We may not know ever. Like, there are so many Dark Lords in Star Wars, especially this time with only the one movie. Like, our options are limitless.
At this point, the franchise is rife with Dark Lords.
Yeah, next issue we're getting some Vader back, and I'm very excited about that.
I am too, although it's already been somewhat spoiled for me that it may not be the way you want Vader back exactly.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
But I'll take my Dark Lord however you want to give him to me.
Yeah, I usually take mine black.
I don't mind that.
But yeah, that was issue number 20 of Star Wars. Han's
did it again.
Just getting warmed up in the gladiator pits.
Next week, it's the main event.
It's the main event. We've still got two issues left in this this arc here. Actually, 3, I think.
Jesus Christ! Of course. Why not? There could be 40 based on the pacing they're putting this at.
But good news is Luke's not in a coma anymore, so you know.
Oh, look, our hero is conscious. So be happy about that, folks. Jesus Christ.
It's all victories from here on out, John. All of our characters are conscious. They're kind of in the same place. Like, what more could you want?
Oh, this book loves to break up our cast. It's... And I recognize that the best Star Wars movie, from an objective standpoint, breaks up most of the cast for most of the movie. But, you know, that was...
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Luke's in the same, like... scene as everybody else twice in Empire, like once at the beginning and once at the end.
Yeah.
But and even then, in Empire, like, he only shares a scene with everybody when he's coming out of the Bacta tank at the beginning of Empire.
Because when he comes back, Han's already in Carbonite when they meet back up in Cloud City.
Yeah.
But then he meets that smooth bastard Lando Calrissian. How y'all doing?
Yeah.
Hello, what have we here?
I'm excited to get past Empire Strikes Back in the comic specifically, because Lando becomes more of a presence in the comic.
Love Lando. Also, it's more information for the comics creators to have about this world.
Yes. More context.
You can already feel it's like, we need another movie. We've run out of things to do. Yeah. Well, of course, make sure to... check out all the other content we have here, either on the podcast network or the YouTube channel.
Yeah, like I said, we did that review of Jedi Survivor a while back. Go check that out over exclusively on the YouTube channel. We've also doing our monthly panel up episodes where we do reviews of more current pop culture stuff.
We're also doing sporadic movie reviews on the YouTube channel with panel up or punch up goes to the movies. So lots of cool content there.
Absolutely. You can also find all of the other shows from the Punch Up Entertainment Network, including Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, where John Campbell and that other guy, I forget his name, Jones, I think. Anyway.
It's something Jones, yeah. We like to say we exhaustively talk about the history of monster movies.
Yes,
and plenty
absolutely.
of other stuff, too. And, of course, you can also listen to Gorgoni, your tabletop role-playing show, not D&D, but a colloquially used term D&D.
It is the Kleenex of TTRPGs. It's true.
Yeah.
But yes, material components you can find over there as well. And of course, the best way to support this show is to do so on our Patreon page, which is podbean.com/punchup. There you can get all sorts of exclusive content, including commentaries from the Action Shelf, bonus episodes of material components, some kind of other monster stuff for Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. I believe you're watching Kolchak the Night Stalker.
We're about halfway through the run of Kolchak the Night Stalker on there right now, so you can get that over there on a show called Knights Talking. So lots of fun stuff to be had over there, plus some new stuff is always in the pipeline over on the Patreon content, so don't miss out on any of that.
And if you're watching us over on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, hit that like button, hit that dongle the bongle down below, and let us know in the comments below which character in this story arc so far would be the best Mortal Kombat fighter. Because obviously the fake pink Rhino Goro is an obvious choice, but I think Master Com is the dark horse in this race.
Oh, but he just seduces everybody. He doesn't fight. I'm a lover, not a fighter, baby.
I'm just saying, I think his fatality would be more sensual than we're used to.
But yeah, that's going to wrap things up for this week.
Absolutely. And as always, I've been Mike Gorgoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And may the panel be with you.